Hey, what's up, everyone? It's Dr. Glenn Vo. I am super excited to have my next guest here. Now, you guys have probably seen him on all these news channels, all these articles. So before we get into our episode, I'd like to give a shout out to Mango Voice, one of our premier sponsors. Mango Voice offers voice over IP phones for dental practices, but it's so much more. Go check them out and make sure you ask for the Nifty Thrifty deal. I know us in the dental community, one of the, like a fellow dentist dropped a link about him doing an interview about being a D1. After years and years and years later, we have dental student, John Pace. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on here, and hearing you say dental student makes me super happy.
Oh man, and honestly, one of the big reasons why I'm bringing you on is, I want to be very upfront with you. There's a lot of dentists out there. Sometimes we've been in practice for many years. And, like any profession, there's ups and downs. And a lot of times people will say, well, I'm not sure if I would have became a dentist, or I'm not sure if I would tell my kids to be a dentist. And here you are, someone who's actually very excited to be in dental school. And I tell people too, I'm like, look, you can have all the complaints you want about our profession. You can complain about school and how you're treated and whatnot. The thing is that there's people out there, and at one time we were so grateful to be in dental school, and it's just a breath of fresh air having you say that, like just saying how excited you are to be in dental school. John, I know you went through orientation. I think school just started. How does it feel to be an actual dental student, having the badge that says dental student or a D1? How does it feel for you?
Honestly, it's pretty surreal. I have wanted to have that badge and to be sitting there for a long time. The thing that really kind of drove it home was the very first day we had dental anatomy, and we went into the sim clinic and started waxing. And I felt like a dentist, I'm just building these little cones out of wax. Obviously, I'm not doing anything special, but it really, holding the instruments and doing something and making something, really, it became very real. Like a lot of this has happened to make it become real, but that was really the moment where it hit.
So John, I wanna let everyone know, for those who have not heard about your story, I want to get a little background here. John, how old are you?
I am 50 years old.
50 years old. And again, I want that to sink in for everyone who's watching this, who's listening to this, who's in the dental community. Maybe you're a dentist, maybe you are a dental hygienist wanting to go to dental school, maybe you're a dental assistant, wherever you are in your career. John is 50 years old. He's starting dental school. He's extremely excited about it. And again, like, I think that's something that's a reminder that everyone needs to understand that, hey, look, this profession is a profession that a lot of people, want to be a part of. Some people can't be a part of. Some people, it takes them a long time. And you're in this profession. You're lucky to be in this profession. Just understand the blessings and also the opportunity you have. John, before you decided to go to dental school here, give us a background of like your previous professional life. What did you do as far as your career before you decided to go into dentistry?
Yeah, so I've been in the workforce for 30 years. So I've done a few things. The last 10 or 11 years, I did AI. I was in data science, and I did a lot of stuff with computer vision. And before that, I had opened a couple of businesses. I went to graduate school, taught high school and college, owned a computer store, a lot of it being in IT over the years, but a little bit of other stuff too. Yeah. It's been varied.
John, and you had this dream of becoming a dentist. And when did that become something where, okay, I want to buckle down and do that? Or is that something that you've always dreamed about but wasn't sure how to get there? Share with us the kind of like the inspiration of wanting to go to dental school.
So originally it happened back in 1994, right after I graduated from college. I was pre-med in college and then decided I didn't want to be a doctor. A lot of people who do that, right? but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and found dentistry, applied, got waitlisted, didn't get in, and then spent time, doing other things. But I've always wanted to do it, but there's been a lot of life circumstances that kind of held me back. Not long after that, we had children. I'm sure there's people who've gone, well, I'm in class with some people who have gone through or are going through dental school with children. And, we made the decision that that wasn't a good time. And then after that, it was just a matter of our kids are grown and they're all on their own now. And it kind of became something we could do. But really, the impetus for doing it now was I was really unhappy in my career, very unhappy. And I was going to be changing careers anyways. And so we made the choice that, this is what I've always wanted to do. And it's not going to be easy, but it's time. I'm not getting any younger. We're in the right life state. And, my wife knew how I felt about it. And let's go for it.
Wow, wow. I mean, again, I'm just first of all, I'm just so excited. I'm so excited to have you entering our profession. We
Thank
need
you.
more people just like you. I just wanted to say that right now. And I just have such this big smile on my face because I remember that time. I remember those times where I just thought to myself, like, I just like give me a shot. Like, give me a shot. Like, I can do this profession proud. I can do this profession. I just want a shot. And just hearing your story, honestly, just brings this big smile to my face. And your wife is being so supportive. And
Yes.
again, was there some when because you had to go through the application process? Was there any hesitancy? Was she like worried? Because again, she had probably known about your dreams about this, and life happens, right? Life happens, kids happen, things happen.
Mhm.
Was she concerned? Was she concerned? Because again, like, our spouses always want to watch out for us. Was she concerned that, there's possibility you could have some heartache here?
Yeah, there was definitely that fear. She she knew it was going to be a struggle. We both knew it was going to be a struggle, but she also knew how much I wanted to do it, and she was
Okay.
really the one who kind of, I don't want to say gave me permission, but allowed me to actually make the decision and do it. Had she not been on board, there's no way I would have done it. I couldn't do it without her support or there being that conflict between us. But you hear her tell the story, and she'll tell you that she felt like if we didn't go for this, it'd be one of those deathbed regrets. And how could she let that not happen? And she has
Wow.
been completely supportive. We've been married 30 years now. She's my best friend. I can't imagine not being with her, and her support has just been unending. We've gone through the process of, getting into dental school, which, as you know, is a huge ordeal. I don't know any other way to put it, but it is an ordeal.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of time that we didn't get to spend together because I was trying to get into school, and we knew there was a very real possibility I wasn't going to get in. We didn't really have a precedent for people that are my age getting into school. So what are colleges going to think? Are they going to think, oh, this guy's only got however many years of practice? We're going to give it to a kid, or not kid. I call them kids because they're the same age as my children. Um, of an applicant who is much younger and potentially has a much longer career path, but she's been completely supportive, and I can't imagine someone being more supportive. It's been really great.
Well, so I'm going to ask you a question that's probably on every person's mind right now that's
Mhm.
listening to your story right now. Um, when you were going through the application process, first of all, let's go through some details here.
Okay.
How many schools did you apply to? How many schools did you actually get an interview with?
This is a really interesting point, and I'll give you a little background first.
Sure.
When I applied back in '94, I only applied to one school. I was 19, and as far as I was concerned, I was the smartest person ever. I only needed to apply to one school because, of course, I was going to get in.
Yeah.
It's where I wanted to go, and that's your 19-year-old mind thinking, right? This time, I didn't apply to just one school. I applied to four, and I'm from Texas, and I didn't apply to any Texas schools. The reason for that being is there's a rule in Texas where any classes you took over 10 years ago count for your GPA, but they don't count as prerequisites. So I was going to have to go back and retake 57 hours of
Wow.
prerequisites, to even apply, like English and all the sciences and everything. I applied to Oklahoma because it was close and it's a good school, Nebraska, Missouri, Kansas City, and Iowa. We really thought about this a lot. Where in the world would we want to go?
Mhm.
Um, that was a huge part of it. And we just decided to go up I-35, see what happens. Originally, OU was our first choice because it was the closest, and then fell in love with Iowa. And I interviewed at 2 places. I interviewed at Oklahoma and then interviewed at Iowa. Missouri and Nebraska were, they very nicely told me, well, you're not from Missouri or Nebraska. So, we take people from these states, which I completely understand. So.
Wow. So, as a fellow Texan, I'm kind of heartbroken that they had that stipulation in there. I think this would have been like a really cool story for any of the Texas schools, especially with you being a Texan there. But I'm
Mhm.
glad that you actually found a place in Iowa. And so, um, share with us the moment that you got that letter, right? I remember when I got my letter, honestly. Like I remember opening it and the girl I was dating at the time took a picture of it. I had a big smile on my face. And
Right.
honestly, I just felt like for myself, I felt like a huge burden was just lifted from my shoulder. Like I had this huge boulder. Not to scare you here, John, but again, I think like the fact that you just got in, you're just so happy to be in. Like you're gonna get through this. You're gonna do amazing. But I will tell you, it's one thing to get in, it's another thing to get out. That's another thing. But
Right.
God puts us in these situations to really show us that what we're really made of. I think that's the
Mhm.
true gift there that a lot of people forget about. Sometimes they're like, "Well, so hard, and this and that," and well, you know what? Like you know what you're made of. You got through that. So share with us when you got that letter. And did you open it in front of your wife? Did you go by yourself? Let us share with us like that whole experience.
Yeah. So it actually came via email. Um,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, it was
That's how
email.
long I've been out.
I
That's
know,
how
I know.
long I've been out. It was a letter for me.
Yeah, it was a letter way back when, but we were at, I guess it was 11 o'clock Central Time. Schools could start sending out, acceptances, and so we were sitting in front of the TV. It was my wife and 2 of my daughters, and hitting refresh on the email over and over and over again. And so finally, about I don't know, about 11:35, like I just couldn't take it anymore. I was like really tired, um, the emotional, all of it, kind of worn out. And I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go to bed. I'll get up in the morning. We'll see what happens. And I picked up my computer and I was walking to my office and I had forgot to stop casting my computer. And I got into my office and everybody lost it. Just this yelling and screaming, Dad, come in here. You just got something from Iowa, which was my first choice. And I ran back in there and I couldn't even read it. I had to have one of my daughters read it on the screen. And then, I just broke down. Of course, the news shows this with me bawling and crying and everything when I first got it. But that's what happened. And just like you, I felt like 30 years of burden and desire and all of that stuff was lifted, but yet it also happened. The burden was gone, but this brand new point in my life was about to happen, and the excitement and everything, all these emotions together, like I just couldn't take it. And
Yeah.
what else do you do other than just cry?
Wow. Wow. What an amazing experience and the one that you could share with your family. And I'll tell you what,
Yeah.
I mean, you're not only, I'm sure, obviously, you're an inspiration to your family, right? But inspiration for others who want to become a dentist. And honestly, as someone who's been practicing for as long as I have, and for someone who has a community like I have, what you're doing is very inspiring because it reminds us, like, why we put all that work in, right? And why how special our profession is. Speaking of how special the profession is, how I think you've gone through your what first week of school?
Yes.
Is that first week like first week of school? How
Yes.
has the reception been from faculty members? To be honestly, I mean, you're probably older than some of the faculty that's there, and maybe you're about the same age. How's the reception been with the faculty? Have they acknowledged that, or do they just kind of play cool, like, "Hey, I'm just treating you like everybody else"? But has anyone and at the school acknowledged, like, "Hey, you're John, you're that 50-year-old D1 student that's been on the news and whatnot"? How's the reception been with the faculty?
It's been interesting. Um, Even back in my interview at Iowa, I'm pretty sure that the interviewers thought somebody's dad got lost. So I went into the room. Um, but The reception has been really good. Nobody, I don't feel like anybody's, giving me the side eye or anything like that. Some of the professors, they kind of look up around the room. We've got an auditorium
Yeah.
type seating, and they see me, and they sometimes they give me a little bit of a second look. But everybody's been super accepting, and I think I would be surprised too if I was teaching in there. But they've all been super nice, and Dean Stanford, who's the dean of our college, has been very nice. He's actually come up to me and talked to me when I was talking to
Oh,
someone else, and it's been great. Honestly, that this was the thing that I was the most worried about in going to dental school. The academics and stuff are going to be hard, but I know I can get through that. But it was going to be this reception. What are people going to think?
yeah.
My faculty, the other students that I'm with, and I haven't
Yeah.
had
So
any
what
trouble.
about your classmates? How's the reception been with your classmates?
Yeah, that was the thing I was by far the most worried about.
Okay.
But it's been really good. Everybody has been super nice. They've all been very accepting. Uh, Somebody said this kind of blew me away. We were doing an activity, and somebody said, "Oh, you're iconic," and I was like, "I'm not sure exactly what that means in the parlance of someone that young." And so I had to call my daughter, and I was like, "What does iconic mean to you guys?" But there's been a lot of things like that that have really just kind of blown my mind. And my handle for Instagram is Dr. Dad the Dentist. So some of them have started calling me the class dad. But it's been great. I think people can tell that I have some life experiences that they
Yeah.
don't necessarily have, and can hopefully help with those things. But I couldn't ask for a better reception. And honestly, I'm completely surprised by it because I didn't expect it to go that well.
Well, I'm so glad that you're having this great experience. And again, I think the faculty will realize um, that you're an inspiration for others who are wanting to go into dental school a little later in their life. But honestly, we need good people in this profession. At the end of the day, we need good people, people who really want to be dentists, who really care about the profession, and that's actually going to help us grow that. Now, speaking of growing within the profession, I know you're already thinking about like, okay, I need to get through gross anatomy, I need to do this, I need to get through dental anatomy. I'm sure those things, like most dental students have this on their mind, but have you given like your future a thought as far as like how you want to go into the dental profession? Have you even thought that far? Like, are you thinking about like, hey, I'd like to own a practice, I like to move back to Texas, or have you given that a thought, or is it more of like a one day at a time for you?
No, no, we've definitely given that a lot of thought. I don't really, this may sound weird, but I don't want to ever own a practice. I've owned a couple of businesses before, and being a business owner is very challenging. You can
Yeah.
either, at least for me, it was either you could work or you could run the business. And people that can do both of those, especially dentists, I have complete respect for, but that's not something I want to do. I would really like to work, say, in a federal clinic or something like that, where I can go practice dentistry and let somebody else deal with I'll call them headaches of running a business. I mean, you
Yeah.
know what that's like. And just practice dentistry. That's what I'd like to do. We live in a area that's pretty rural. It's growing up, but we want to be in a rural area. That's what we plan to do anyways. And I don't know where exactly we're going to land. Maybe Iowa, maybe Texas. I really love Albuquerque, although I'm having to sell my wife on that one. But we'll just see where we end up. I've found that the rural areas are, um, there's just such a need there.
Yeah.
And you see people that, have never been to a dentist ever. And you go to Dallas or Fort Worth, where I'm from, and everybody's got dental insurance. You need a cleaning, you just go get a cleaning. But that's not the case in most of the rural areas, and that's really where I want to be. I mean, this is this is not about making money. This is not about any of that. I've had very good careers throughout the years. This is about giving back, and that's wherever that ends up is fine. But no, I don't plan to ever own a practice associate, or a federal job would be exactly what I'm looking for.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, we definitely need more dentists in that sector. We definitely need dentists in those underserved areas, believe it or not. And I'm sure as dental students, unfortunately, you guys get a lot of this from the dental community. Sometimes the dental community say, well, yeah, plenty of dentists. We don't need any more dentists. But believe it or
Mhm.
not, the statistics show that we actually we actually have more people leaving the profession than entering the profession. And it's so
Yep.
hard for my colleagues to understand that because like we see dentists everywhere. Yeah, you see dentists everywhere because you're in the major cities, right? I'm in
Mhm.
Dallas, Fort Worth as well. But
Yeah.
where there's actually need, no one is going out there. And the fact that that is something that's really important to you, that's amazing because we need more good dentists, people who truly love the profession in those areas. And, if you're a young dentist listening right now and you're thinking, well, I don't know where I need to go, or maybe you're a pre-dental student, have a lot of pre-dental students that listen to the podcast, look, go where you're needed, right? Build that skill
Right.
set up. Who knows? You may fall in love with that area. I mean, again,
Yep.
people fall in love with these areas that they practice in, not only because it's the areas, the people as well. So, John, I'm gonna get a little bit more details here. We talked about your family. So again, you've been married to your wife for 30 years. That's a whole different podcast. Yeah, I need to get you on. We need to learn some secrets, myself included, being married that long. But tell us about your family. How many kids do you have? Are there any grandkids already? Tell us about the rest of your family.
So I have three daughters. My oldest is 27. She's been married a couple of years. Her name's Jana. She's married to Martin. Love him to death. And then I have 24-year-old twins. Well, Jana, let me go back to Jana. Jana is a wedding hairstylist, um, and I know nothing about that, so I've learned quite a bit from her. And then I have 24-year-old twins, Julie and Jill. Julie just graduated from the University of Oklahoma, got her master's degree in opera. Again, something I know nothing about, but I'm learning. She's very talented. Gets her talent from her mom, and then her twin sister Jill just started nursing school the same day I started dental school.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's three daughters. I was a girl dad, and um, yeah, that's my family.
Yeah, and so now you and your daughter are entering the health profession, kind of at the same time. That is such a cool story right there. And again, just going through like, hey, I got to study for this test, and like when she tells you, hey, I got to study for a test, you can relate. She's like, I've got a bunch of tests myself, so I think that's so neat there. Now, being in, wait, look, I'm from Dallas Fort Worth as well. I mean, there's
Right,
a big difference between number one, Texas and Iowa, much
right.
less Dallas Fort Worth and where University of Iowa is.
Mhm.
Um, how has that transition been for you? But also, not just you. Did your wife move with you, or is she still down in Dallas Fort Worth?
So my wife is still in Dallas Fort Worth.
Okay.
We She has a very good job, which is nice because I don't have a job other than being a student. Um, and she loves her job. And we have where we live, we have a couple acres, and on our property, we have my mother-in-law who's there, who's getting a little older, and my wife helps her quite a bit. And then my oldest daughter and her husband live there too. So she's got a lot of support there, which is nice. And honestly, in our thinking about it, it didn't seem right for her to have to move away from all of our family who we're very close with to come to a place she doesn't know,
Yeah.
sit in the apartment while I'm at school or studying, find a job she may like, she may not. Um, so yeah, she's there, and honestly, that's a little tough. I'm having to do what I can to keep my mind occupied, but technology now allows us to talk all we want. And yeah, Iowa City, where University of Iowa is at, is very different than DFW. Um, I mean, in DFW, my wife drives almost an hour to work. I mean, like everybody does, right? It's not uncommon. And to go from West Fort Worth to East Dallas is 70 miles or something. Iowa City, you can go from the town I live in is it's a suburb of Iowa City. It's called Coralville. You can go from all the way from Coralville to the other side of Iowa City in about 15 minutes, like literally
Wow.
across the whole entire place in 15 minutes. And it's kind of mind blowing for that. And then we have, the speed limits around here are all like 25 to 40.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Gosh.
imagine people actually doing 40 miles an hour down, say, Beltline in Dallas. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's just a slower pace of life here, which is really nice. And yeah, it's a little bit of a culture shock, but it's a culture shock in a good way.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's conducive for studying, okay? I mean, again, there's not a lot to do. You just study and it's easy to get from one side of town to another. And I'm sure that you actually have some classmates where they're doing the long distance thing, correct? I mean, I know that that was the case for me in my class.
You mean with their spouse or
Yeah,
driving?
with a spouse, like, living in another city. I actually had a few, classmates that were in that same situation. Do
Mhm.
you have any other classmates in the same situation?
Yeah, I do. I actually have one classmate whose husband is in Serbia, um,
Oh,
and so yeah, there's so that's pretty far away. I think there was some travel things that have gone on there, but being that far away is much more challenging than what I'm dealing with. And then we've got other people who their spouses in the military, so they may be off in other places. So we kind of there's some bonds that form there,
yeah.
when you're alone.
Well,
Um,
and it's good to know that other people are going through the same thing, and to be honest, some people, I mean, their spouse is in another country. At least, your wife's like just a flight away, a direct flight away, to see, or you direct flight going back home. So puts a lot
right.
of things in perspectives there. So for sure, for sure. Now, John, I'm going to transition here. All my guests I bring on, I like to ask like productivity mindset questions, and we have this segment of our podcast called the Dental Entrepreneur 3. And I'm going to ask you the three questions I ask everybody else. And the first question is what is a productivity tip, tool, something that keeps you productive and efficient, something that you like to do that actually our listeners can possibly adopt and use it in their own lives?
Mhm. For me, it's making lists and to-do lists. I use a project or a product called Microsoft To Do, which is
Mhm.
free. It's part of Office 365 and then Outlook as well. It's great. It tells you every day what you need to do and what's coming up the next day and whatever. Um, it takes a little bit of time to get that set up. Uh, and I think that may be why some people don't do this. But it's worth it because I've got the whole semester planned out. I've gone through, I probably spent I don't know, 8 hours this week just going through my syllabus and all the class schedules and everything. And I know when every test is and how many days beforehand I need to start studying. So all of that's documented. So every day when I wake up, unless I get some surprise, I know exactly what has to be done. Otherwise, there's just too much stuff to keep up with.
Oh
I
yeah.
would end up I would end up with something coming up that was bad, because I wasn't ready. And, I don't know how it was when you were in dental school, but the only thing consistent about our schedule is that it's not consistent.
Yeah.
Every week is completely different. It's not the Monday, Wednesday, Friday class or the Tuesday, Thursday class. It's all over the place. So you never really get into a routine, I don't think, of what you're doing.
It's kind of like
So
a dental
without
practice sometimes, when with the
Mhm,
patients, you think you're going to see XYZ patient, or you think you're going to do a procedure and it becomes something else. I think dental school does that intentionally. Also, just piling on like multiple things all at once. When you get in the upper class, when you're like a third year or fourth year, you're going to notice like, oh yeah, you got a million things going on. You got to see patients, you got to study all those things. And what we realize, and you're going to soon realize this, is that they're actually training you how practice is, because you're not just seeing
mm,
patients, you're dealing with like other things as well, your team, your payroll, and all these different things. Fun stuff that actually you're going to bypass if you go in and work at the clinic. All you got to do is just manage your team and see the patients, which is sometimes that's the fun part. People think like
mhm.
that's the hard part. The hard part is actually the business stuff and dealing with money and stuff like that. Now, John, I want to ask the next question here, and this is the one that I actually love hearing because it helps me develop my own library, right? And that is, what's a nonfiction book that is your favorite that you could recommend to others?
My favorite is the Bible. I've read it multiple times, and
Love it.
you know that's really what I try to live by. There's several things that in there that I'll bring up one of them, where it talks about doing the right thing even when it hurts,
Mm,
and I think that's critical for our profession. One of the reasons I chose Iowa was there is a massive focus on ethics and integrity, which are both wrapped up in that. And we're professionals who are treating people, and people expect us to do the right thing. And for us, we've got to do that even when it's hard. There may be a patient we're dealing with that we don't want to be dealing with, but we've got to treat them the same as everyone else. And yeah, that's my favorite. I've got some others that I love too, but that's the one.
I'll tell you what, that's one of my favorites too. What I like to tell people is the Bible is actually really, if you really dig deep and really understand the lessons, It's actually a business book too. It's also a
Mhm.
mindset book too.
Yep.
One of the things, and I'll just share this, is very recently, in our community, there's been about three pastors that have
Mhm.
fell victim to sin, right,
Yep.
in a very public way. And people who are believers and non-believers alike, reacted to different ways. And for me, when I talked to a church elder, one thing that the elder reminded me of is that it doesn't matter how high you are in the church,
Mhm.
doesn't matter how amazing you are. You might have done amazing things. God's always above us, and we're all susceptible to sin.
Right.
And he shared the story. It's like, if you think about King David, probably one of the most famous biblical figures, right?
Mhm.
Who basically fell to sin as well. If someone as great as him, right, can fall to sin, we all are. And so we should always just be mindful of that and never just give in to our pride, never feel like we're all bigger. And that's something like, again, that's something, whether you're a Christian or not, that's something that you should keep mindful of, right? If you
Right.
become so arrogant and so prideful that you feel like you can't make a mistake, maybe you're a dentist and
Yeah.
you're like, I'm going to cut these corners because I've done this procedure so many times.
Mhm.
But it only takes that one time where you feel like you're just better than everything else, and you cut that corners when you actually could hurt somebody. So I love the fact that you said that, because again,
Yep.
I tell people that the Bible is more than just a bunch of stories, right?
Yep.
Not a bunch of rules. There's stories that are reminders of what could happen if you're not careful. So thank you so much
Yep.
for choosing that, John. I
The
really
other one, there's one more I can tell you. I love Marcus Aurelius. The
yeah.
Stoic philosophy, I think, is very important. It's very biblically based. I don't know if Marcus Aurelius was a believer or not, but most of the stuff he says is in the Bible. But that's kind of a guiding thing as well.
I that is actually on my list of books to read. So thank you for
Yeah.
bringing that up as well. As far as the Bible, I try my best. I try my best. I try to read a few scriptures every day. So I try my best there. Now the next question I'm going to ask you, again, this is something that's always hard for me because I've made so many mistakes in my life. And that is, share a mistake that you made that you learned something significant from, that others can learn something from as well.
Oh, that's hard because there's a whole long list.
Yeah.
Um, um, there was probably the biggest mistake we ever felt like we made was we opened a business with some friends that we thought were very close.
Yeah.
And then just a few weeks into it, we started to realize that there were some struggles between us and them that we didn't know about until we got in the situation where we're running a business. And it really fell apart pretty quick, but we kept going. And, we kept it going for 3 years. And it was by far the most miserable point in our life. But, the lesson we learned from that was when you start noticing something is going very badly, it's probably time to get out. Whether that's a job or a relationship with someone or whatever it might be. Um, don't try to keep pushing it just because you feel like you want to or whatever. Um, and that's the thing that it was the hardest mistake we ever made, the one we learned the most from. But at the same time, it really helped us grow because it's an experience we went through, but we also share with our daughters, and we try to share with other people. I mean, I'm sure you've seen people that are in a situation, maybe they're associates, maybe they've opened a practice or whatever it might be, and it's just not going like they thought, and it's time to make a change, and we just don't do it.
I think that's something that anybody, in no matter what stage in life they are in, could
Mhm.
definitely benefit from. Could definitely be, and I love that advice. And again, as dentists, we have mainly dentists and dental professionals listening to this podcast.
Mhm.
We are built, and John, you're going to learn this very quickly as you go through your dental school career. We are built to withstand a lot of stuff, to
Mhm.
go through a lot, to handle a lot of things. And sometimes, yes, we're built that way because, private practice can be difficult sometimes, right? But sometimes that kind of gives us that false sense of security where, okay, you know what, even this is bad, I'm just going to blast my way through it. In some
Yep.
cases, when you have that gut feeling, you got to follow that gut feeling. I always tell people, you ignore your gut feelings and have to deal with the repercussions, right? You got to do that with caution,
Yes.
right? You ignore your gut feelings, right?
Yep.
So that
Yep.
is something, John, I love that because not only whatever stage of career you are, that is something that you should pay attention to. So thank you so much for that as well. Now, John, I'm going to ask you this. Obviously, you're going to get really busy, and
Yep.
there's going to be so many people who are like, "Oh, I want to reach out to them." Maybe they want to send you a word of encouragement. Maybe they'll ask you a bunch of questions. But folks, I'm going to tell you right now, he's about to get into a very busy stage in his life. Okay, so be mindful of that. But for those who want to follow you, want to keep in touch with you, you want to see how you're doing, and maybe drop a word of encouragement here and there. What's the best way for them to keep up with you, John?
So the best way, two ways: Instagram and YouTube. I am documenting everything on YouTube for a couple of reasons. One is my family's still in Texas. I want them to be able to see it, and
Yeah.
then also to get the point across that you can do this. It is possible, whatever your dream is. So YouTube is kind of the main way. It's just at Dr. Dentist, Dr. Dentist, Dr. Dad the Dentist, Dr. Dad the Dentist, and then also Instagram, same thing, at Dr. Dad the Dentist. And a lot of people have messaged me on there, which has been pretty cool. Telling me, "Hey, I've always wanted to do whatever, and never thought I could, but I saw you on the news, or I saw you on YouTube, or whatever it might be, and now I'm going to do it. I signed up for this class, or I did whatever, and that's only been a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the two best ways to follow me.
Okay.
Feel free to I'm always fine with someone DMing me on Instagram, and I'll respond. I don't respond to every comment. I'm still trying to figure out this whole social media thing. If you want to know the truth, I could use some tips from you, because it's very easy to get wrapped up in it.
Oh yeah.
And you have to balance your time. So I don't respond to every comment, but the DMs I do. Half the comments, well, I don't want to say half the comments. There's some that I'm not going to respond to just because you think, why would somebody post that?
Yeah.
But those are the two ways to follow.
Well, I'll definitely give you some tips as well. There's a few things it can be very time consuming, and you're about to get in a busy time in your life, so I'll definitely help you out there. John, before we log off here, I would like for you to share a message with all my fellow dentists out there. I'd like for you to share, and again, most of us have been practicing for a while. And at one time, getting into dental school was probably like our biggest goal. And at one point in time, it was one of our biggest accomplishments. I shared with you like how I felt like a weight was lifting off our shoulders, right? But as you go through the career, maybe that novelty and maybe the how special the moment was, it kind of fades away after a while.
Sure.
I just want you to share with all of us how special it is for you to get into dental school and to enter our profession. And again, this is for all of us veterans out there who maybe we just need a reminder. I just want you to share from your own feelings, like how important this is to you and how important it is for you to be on the road to become a dentist.
I can't even really describe it. It's very important. The thing that I don't want to forget along the way. I mean, there's so many things that it's going to get super busy. I'm going to have all this stuff going on. My family's in Texas. The thing I never want to forget is how grateful I was that moment when I got that. Every single morning I wake up, and I do this intentionally, and I think about how grateful I am for what's about to happen that day or what happened the day before. Little things like I'm grateful that there's a bus that goes right by where I live and I can ride the bus to school. I don't have to drive. And I never want to forget how grateful and how blessed I am. And I would say for people that are out there listening, if you have nothing to be grateful for, then you're not looking hard enough. Never forget how grateful we are to be in this profession. There's a lot of people who might want to do it or who want to do something else, but gratitude is so big, and really realizing how blessed we are. That's really what I want to share. Is it's huge. I don't think people are grateful enough for what they have, and it builds resentment, it builds everything else. Um, yeah, I'm sure you feel the same way. I mean, you've got to practice, you've got this, there's a lot to be grateful for. You don't even really have to look that hard.
I love that. And with that note, I mean, again, that we're going to conclude this podcast. That was amazing. John, thank you so much for sharing your story, for honestly inspiring me and it's going to inspire so many more people there. And we're going to be watching you with great interest, right? We're going to be rooting for you because, again, we need more dental professionals just like you in our profession. So, John, thank you so much for jumping on.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.